And now a quick word from our sponsors here at Viral Hip Hop News.
Hey, yo, bring the fire all summer long with the Big Three and your homeboy Ice Cube. Starting July 10th on CBS, Thriller, and Fight TV. That's right, every Saturday. Bring the fire with the Big Three, baby.
And here from Viral Hip Hop News, letting my people know to go grab this bottle of miracle food right now. ChakraDoctor.org put together some of the best ingredients on God's green earth to help your immune system, give you a cleanse and reboot that your body deserves. Don't wait for your miracle. Grab it in Miracle Food right now. Let's go.
House of Lazenby 1970H is the continuation of the Lazenby family fighting for its independence in the criminal world from the mafia and the national agreement. This ongoing battle takes the Lazenby clan over international waters. Grab the House of Lazenby 1970H in the description box right now.
So we on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast this afternoon on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. We got a very special guest in the building. We got Pamela Long on the podcast. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm well, and yourself? Thank y'all for having me. Thank you so much.
Now, the pleasure is all ours. We definitely appreciate you while you're traveling, spending some time with us this afternoon. So the first thing I want to ask you, Ms. Long, if you don't mind answering, when we got introduced to the interview, we heard a strong emphasis on saying Pamela Long, formerly of Total. Now, Total being one of the most iconic R&B groups, one of the original groups of Bad Boy, and you've been a part of that. Is everything okay with you in Total?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? When it's just like, think about Michael Jackson when he came from underneath his brothers. You know what I mean? It was just like he was still a part of the Jackson 5, but it was just like so that he can be, you know, the solo artist that he needed to be and to become. It was just like he had to drop the Jackson 5. You know what I mean? The name. It wasn't that. There's no love loss at all, because if it wasn't for the Lord blessing me to be a part of Total, look, I wouldn't even be Pam from Total, known as. You know what I mean? But Pamela Long is definitely my name, and so when you coming forward, when you're moving forward, you have to make sure that you set the precedent. You know what I mean? Just look at Beyonce. When she came out, she had to put Destiny's Child over to the side for them. It wasn't that she was leaving her girls or she didn't have love for them. She just had to do what it is that she needed to do as a solo artist. So that's all it is.
Understood. Thank you.
Right, and you're from New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, Jersey girl, all day long. Yes, I am.
Awesome. We're definitely Jersey boys as well. Our studios in Jersey too. Take us back. Yeah, take us back if you can. To I think I heard you saying you started off in the church. Take us back to the beginning of you singing, and when did you know that you wanted to do this professionally?
Right. You know what? Just as a little girl, I just loved singing pretty much all my life. But you know, at the age of I don't know, I'm gonna say roughly 9-ish, 11-ish. You get your first solo at church, and then I started singing, and after I finished and hearing people praise the Lord and being happy about me singing, it was just like, oh, really? And so it was just like what I really loved to do ever since I was a little girl. Though it was definitely in my heart always.
Now, you and your sisters in Total got a very interesting story in getting together. I was listening and reading that originally you didn't really know if you guys could mesh before getting together. Can you kind of talk about you and getting together with Total, with your sisters, Keisha and Tamika?
Right. You know what? I was a knucklehead, 15 years old. First time I ever went to the studio in my life. A family friend took me to a studio in Plainfield, New Jersey. The producer was Norman Bradley, and Alex Kennedy was the one who actually took me there. And I recorded. The song came out good. I went home that night. I was about to get in trouble. My mother's gonna whoop my tail because I came home late. And he was like, "Miss Judy, no, wait." And so he was like, we was in the studio. And so she heard the song. My mother loved it. I was able to go back to the studio. And upon me going back and forth to the studio, the next day or so, because it was, I was there by myself that night when we recorded. And I saw Kima and Keisha. And just in passing, we saw each other or whatever. And I heard a song that they did. Norman played it for me. And it was a good song. And other than that, it wasn't nothing as far as us coming together as a group. And one day Norman called on the phone because in passing we would speak or whatever. And he asked, would we want to be a group? And I was like, no. When they called, I was like, no. Just a 15-year-old knucklehead kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, because they were looking for a third member. I had no idea. And, basically as we were on the phone, I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then from there, the rest has been history.
Yeah.
Right now you're in high school. and the original name of the group was Total Opposite. So take us back there and take us to, you meeting Diddy and having an audition and him not really giving too much of an expression in the audition.
Right. Well, the name Total Opposite that was from Keisha. Keisha, basically, if you look at us, we were all completely opposite of one another, so the name stuck, and it was Total Opposite was the name that she came up with. And Diddy, Puff, well, I don't even call him Diddy. I feel crazy calling him Diddy. Puff, Puff, because I just known him as Puff. No disrespect, but I just known him as Puff for so long, so he still answers to that. Thank God when I call him, you know what I mean? When I call him that, Puff. So it's just like from there, he just dropped the opposite. It wasn't something that he was trying to do. He just started calling us Total, and it just stuck. He really just kept to that name Total, and it had that ring to it. And as far as performing for him, yeah, we had to. It was a surprise from our manager because we had no idea that she knew Puffy. Her son was actually his godson. And one day, after grooming us and having us jumping out of cars and performing on the streets for people and, get out my car right now and perform, I guess she thought we were ready for Puff after a while. And she told us that we was going to go to the studio, the Hit Factory in New York, to perform for him. And so when he came down on the elevator and those elevator doors closed, we was all over dude. Like, we was in his face and everything, performing, giving him everything we had. And the elevator doors opened up and he walked off, and we followed him into one of the lounges. And I mean, we performing all in his face, and Puff, and he had that straight face, and then he looking at us, and then for a minute he smiled a little bit, but he ain't show no teeth. He smiled a little bit. And then after we performed, he was just like, how did we get along? He said he asked us if we got into it at the studio, could we still keep it moving? Said yes. And he's like, all right, thank y'all for coming out. And it was just like, oh, like, but at the end of and it was just like, it was hurtful. It really was. It's just like, you like, dog, he ain't like us at all. So it's just like, you kind of starstruck because this is the Puff Daddy that was chasing Big Les in Mary's Real Love video. That's all I knew, so I'm looking at him like he the man. And so 5 o'clock that morning, he called Kathy Dukes, God rest her soul. He called her and said, don't take those girls anywhere. I want to sign them. And here we are today. Here I am today.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome to hear. Now, back in the day, that's how you got deals. You pulled up on an A&R, you waited for them outside the radio station or outside the building, and you gave them your demo, and that's how you got on. Nowadays, it's completely different, a whole different generation of music. But talk about Total in its absolute prime. You guys are the first female group of the first ladies of Bad Boy Records. You guys had hits and great albums and things like that. So talk about at the height of Total's, how was it?
You know what? It was amazing. Like, to really be doing it with some of the greats. It's not to take anything away from the people today, but I'll say the greats. Biggie, Craig Mack, Mace. You can go on and on. Missy, Timbaland, Puff, just being around Mary and being around Jodeci and that whole era, the 90s era, being there with SWB, just everybody, that whole era to me, being the first ladies of Bad Boy, it was such an amazing feeling because it was just like, dog, like, I can look at it now because back then you don't look at it that way. I'm just a kid and I'm excited and I'm just, a dream come true for me. But it's just like now I can look back and be like, dog, I was chosen out of everybody. You know what I mean? Like, God, like, how you choose me out of everybody? Like, that's one thing that hit me the other day. Like, I heard this, I don't know if it was this it was something that I was listening to. I was listening to the Bible. And I heard one of the kings in the Bible, King David. I don't know if y'all read the Bible. I don't know if y'all read the Word of God. But I'm telling y'all, the Bible is the truth. It's absolutely fire. If you want to know about life, all you got to do is pick up the Word of God, and it will bless your socks off. I'm telling you for real. But King David, he was just like, he said to God, he was like, how did you choose me out of everybody? Like, out of all my brothers, out of everybody else, you chose me. and it resonated with me like, dog, God, like, dog, you chose me. And I heard they said Mayweather said that too. Like, out of everybody in the world, God chose him. So that's how I look at it. Like, dog, God, wow, thank you.
Right. Now talk about the originality and the uniqueness, of the groups, because you had In Vogue, SWV, you guys, but everybody was kind of known and had their own separate sound. Talk about, that back then and how everybody, was a lot of competition, but everybody was original and distinct.
Right, and that's the thing with music. To me, I think a lot of times, as one, I say that when you take that away from an artist and you try to make them a carbon copy of what you're seeing, it's just like it takes away so much of the artistry. Because back then, it's like you said, In Vogue, Total wasn't trying to be In Vogue, and Vogue wasn't trying to be Total. Escape wasn't trying to be SWV, and SWV wasn't trying to be 702. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody had their own flavor, and it was just something that Puff saw in us, and then he helped to enhance it. It was just like I wasn't trying to be Keisha, Keisha wasn't trying to be Kima, but it was just like the three of us together. It would not have been Total had it not been the three. So it's just like the originality was just so dope. Everybody had their own sound, but it was like when you put it together, it's just like, oh, this
Yeah.
really worked. This
Yeah.
really worked. I'm not Whitney Houston, I'm not Mariah Carey, but I am Pamela Long, and it's just like that. It's like when you have a group that has a sound, don't change it. Or you have someone that has a sound, don't change them as an artist. Let them be, because
Mhm.
that's when you get the true essence of music, opposed to making a lot of carbon copies.
I absolutely appreciate that. Let's talk about, we talked about the height of the run. Now let's talk about when the artist has to come down and, as I say, I would say come down to reality, for lack of a better term, and
Hmm.
the lights aren't necessarily on them and fame isn't necessarily knocking at their door like it once was. How did you guys in the group, you, Keisha, Kima, and yourself, deal with that? You on an individual's perspective, how did you deal with coming back down and not necessarily being at the top of the game like you once were?
Right. You know what? Total disbanded. We actually disbanded at the height of our career. So it's just like, to have that, to be at the height of your career and things change, it's kind of just, don't get me wrong, that thing, it hurt.
Yeah.
It's different, you know what I mean? It's very different. And especially when you are in a place where you so used to just everything is just being hands on. You walk here, people screaming your name. It's just like,
Mhm.
or you go there and it's just like all of these different things that you get used to.
Right.
And sometimes you can believe your own hype, and you can believe the hype. And I did both pretty much. And coming down from that, yo, sometimes you don't know how deep you're in it until you're out of it, and then you start to realize, like, ain't nobody gonna love me like I love me.
We lost you, Miss Long. We can't hear you.
We got you back.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, yes. And it's just like, you get used to the hype and people calling your name, and it's just like now, it's just like, dog, nobody ain't calling your name, so you trying to fake it for yourself to act like it wasn't all that to you and that you really wasn't high strong on that. But come to find out, man, it's just like you get a quick reality check, and it humbles you. Either it can humble you or it can break you. In my case, it did both.
Yeah.
In my case, it did both, and I'm thankful to God that it did, because I needed to be broken, because I needed to come back down to that reality, and not think that it was all about me.
Right. Now the
Because
late.
it never was. It never was.
Yeah.
I just believed the hype, got caught up in it.
Right.
Right now, being one of Bad Boy's first major groups period. What happened with Bad Boy? Because Bad Boy over the years has got such a bad stain on it for dealing with artists. How was your experience with Bad Boy? How did you eventually
You know what? I really can't speak for. It would be wrong of me to try to speak for Bad Boy, just like it would be wrong for somebody to try to speak for myself. But what I can say is that at the end of the day, sometimes we all can get caught up in things. Everybody, it can happen to anybody. You ain't even got to be on Bad Boy. You could just be a person working at a regular 9 to 5, and you get a little extra on yourself, believing the hype about yourself, and it's things that can come in, slide in anybody's life. You can be a custodian, you can be working at Walmart, whatever it is. You just got to be real careful, because when it comes to power, that's one thing it's like in the influence. Yo, you got to be ever so careful, because that thing can turn. It can turn. You can come in it so innocent, You come in it with such an innocent heart, and then the next thing you know that thing turned, and it's just like, duh, how did I get caught up in this?
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
some people love the power. Then you don't get me wrong. Some people could love that power, and don't get me wrong. It's just like you got people screaming your name everywhere,
Right.
especially when you not the one that used to be called on, i.e., me. You know what I mean? Especially when you feel like you're not that one. You know, in school I was the class clown and the one that got the people laughing and things like that. But at the end of the day, when you have so many insecurities and you're not secure within yourself, oh, you get some power or some influence, oh, you think you everything, and that ain't it.
Definitely. We definitely want to be sensitive to your time and definitely appreciate your time this long. So I apologize for the abruptness of this question that I'm about to ask you as we're flowing through. I just want to make sure that we ask it because it's important given the times, I
Okay.
believe. Now, we know that you dealt with some serious situations with your ex-husband and made serious allegations against your ex-husband, but then
Okay.
made an apology and owned up to that, and very holding yourself accountable was very admirable. Given the times that we're in right now, when you see Bill Cosby and other people going through what they're going through, and
Yes.
seeing the divide between men and female, who's innocent, who's not, who's guilty, who's not. Talk about what you learned giving that experience, and what's the in your opinion, can we just look at men and automatically demonize them because we hear what women say, or can we automatically demonize women because we know that this kind of thing happens? Can you just give your perspective on that?
Right, I definitely can. You absolutely right. When it came down to the situation with my ex, regardless as to how hurt or whatever it is that I felt that I went through with him, and personally, it's some things that I feel some sort of kind of way, but there was no excuse, not one, for what it is that I said, and it's just like, yo, I got checked really hard, and it's just like I had to come back to the table. I did not want to. I was afraid to, but I knew that had I not, it was just like, yo, I was going to deal with, God was going to deal with me on a whole another level. And it's just like, it was it was fearful and it was hurtful, but at the time I was in a place of, it's just like, I even said to myself just recently, because I am writing a second book. And it's just like within the book, I had to say to myself, like, yo, like, the why, I haven't even got to the root of the why. Regardless of if I was hurt or not, there is no excuse, and no men should not be demonized, and neither should women. But what it is that the person that was wrong, if you're wrong, then you're wrong, and own up to that, And it's just like it could have been worse. My apostle had spoken to me about the situation, and she told me to watch a movie called Rosewood. And one person's lie killed so many people, and it's just like, who's to say, because of what it is that I've done, that I could have been one of those ones, or it could have been worse than what it is. And it's just like, I make no excuses for myself at all, because I can't. If I stood here and did that, then it's just like, yo, then come on. So that's why I won't go into.
Oh, we lost you, Miss Long. I apologize.
Hey, can
Oh,
you hear me?
yes, can you hear us?
Okay. Yes, I won't go into the pointing of the finger and this, that, and the third, and tit for tat. But what I can say is that I was in a relationship with him, and he was in a relationship with me. He knows what it is that went down on from his side, and I know what went down on mine. So I can only speak for myself and to apologize for what it is that I've done. And I thank God that He has forgiven me, and I'm moving forward. And it's just like, and I don't say that lightly, because there's nothing light about what I did. But I can't stay there, because if I do, then I'll never grow as a woman.
Appreciate that, Miss Long. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we definitely appreciate. Talk to us real quick. We got a minute left about the second book that you're writing, and your motivations behind that, please.
You know what? The second book that I'm writing, and it's just like, yo, sometimes you like the first book that I wrote called Total Exposure, Pieces of Me, Pamela Long. It's just like, I never even knew that I was going to write one book. And it's just like, it was prophesied to me by my apostle that, that I was going to write a book, and it came to pass. And the second book, she told me, she was like, you going to write a second book? And I'm looking like, dog, it was hard for me to write the first one. How am I write a second one? But sure enough, the word of the Lord came true. And this second book is just like unmasked, like everything. Like let everything go, because it's so easy. Listen, for me, in my life growing up, it was so easy for me to hide everything, hide my feelings, hide what I want to say, all types of stuff, hide lying, faking, phony, all of that. So now unmask everything, let it go, and just allow God to really heal me. If I really truly am a woman of, I want to be a woman of God, I want to be who God wants me to be, then let it all go. And that means I had to let it all go. And it's scary because it's just like, dog, everybody gonna see this. People gonna see this. But at the end of the day, it's not only freeing me, but hopefully somebody else.
We definitely appreciate your time. It's Pamela Long on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Before we get up out of here, Ms. Long, let us know where we can find you, all social media handles, websites, whatever you may have for the people. When that next gospel album's coming out, the floor is yours.
Yes, you know what? Thank you so much. You could check out Pamela Long. You could check me out on BET Presents the Encore. Encore. I'm going to say that first. On BET, 10 p.m., 9 Central. You can check me out. My social media handles are Pamela Long, the number 4 ever. And then on Facebook, I'm just Pamela Long. But everything else, Twitter, IG, I am Pamela Long, the number 4 ever. And I have a book that you can get on PamelaLong.com, the signed autograph one, or either on Amazon.com, Total Exposure Pieces of Me, Pamela Long. And you can hit me up on IG if you need a trainer. If you need a personal trainer, you want to work out, get with your girl. Wow. Definitely. Because I do I do a social media, not social media, via Zoom, and also in person as well. But as you see, we're going to wear that mask. We're going to put that mask on and protect each other.
Well, thank you for your time, Ms. Pamela Long on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Straight travel. Salute.
Yes, thank y'all so much, and I appreciate it. I hope to be back soon where I could be at a stable place, but I thank you for your time, and I really do appreciate it.
Likewise.
Feelings mutual. We'd love to have you back. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Hip hop, hip hop, hip hop, hip bars is back. Hip hop, SamAnt O'God. What's up with you? I done watched them niggas do interview after interview. They not culture vultures, the culture something they been into. So if you never gave them a view, I recommend you do. Cause when they question guests, they message is not subliminal. It don't matter if you a rookie.